Today, it's our great pleasure that we get to speak to Director in Central Board of Shri Aurobindo Society, very fondly known as Vijay Bhai. Vijay Bhai looks after and coordinates all the various projects done by society such as education, health, village development, leadership program, media, and various such projects. Vijay Bhai, welcome and thank you so much for speaking to Radio Karishma.
It is a pleasure to be with you and Radio Karishma.
We start talking about Shri Aurobindo Society. I would like you to introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners. That how did you get associated with this society? And I have heard stories that you've been here since beginning. Would like to know more about that, sir.
Well, before I tell you a little bit about myself and how I happen to be here, I think it'll be nice because we are meeting in the month of August and so soon after the 15th of August, which is the independence, the Day of India, as everyone knows. But not many are aware it is also the birthday of Shri Aurobindo. And in a message which he gave on the eve of India's independence to All India Radio, he had mentioned that he did not take this as a chance coincidence. He had been one of the leaders of the freedom movement in the early part of the 20th century, and he was the leader with people and stalwarts like Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai, Bipin Chandra Pal. And it is interesting that in the early years of Shri Aurobindo were spent in England with no contact of India. He grew up in England. He was a master of English, French, Greek, Latin, but did not know his own mother tongue Bengali. And it is much later when he returned to India that he sought for the great truth which India had to give to the world. It is interesting that Subhash Chandra Bose, in his memoirs, speaks about how he was inspired by Shri Aurobindo in the early years when he joined the freedom movement. When Shri Aurobindo was actively involved in the freedom movement, Rabindranath Tagore had met him in Calcutta. He had told him that, "O Aurobindo, accept the salutations of Rabindranath." And after Shri Aurobindo came to Puducherry, Tagore had visited him here in Puducherry. And when he came out of the meeting, he said that, "I saw the Rishi of the old times, and I told him that India will speak through your voice. And I told you then, O Aurobindo, accept the salutations of Rabindranath. Today I tell the same thing, O Aurobindo, accept the salutations of Rabindranath." So Shri Aurobindo fought for India's freedom, but that was not against any country or a people. It was because India had something special to give to the world, to give a deeper dimension to the evolutionary movement. And India could not have done this without being completely free. So the purpose of India's freedom was part of a much larger freedom for the whole of humanity. Freedom for suffering, freedom from darkness, freedom from ignorance. How to bring the true happiness, the true peace, the true joy to everyone all over the world, and how to do it in a way which would be lasting, which would be natural. And Shri Aurobindo believed this type of a change, the dream of humanity through the ages, could not be done by any external change by a rule, by a change of structure, process, method, even political change, economic change, social, cultural, religious, none of them had been able to do it through the centuries. All these efforts had been made, and he believed it is only a spiritual change, as distinct from a religious change, which could bring about this change.
How could spiritual and religious change be distinct?
Now, here, two things we have to become a little clear. One is the difference between spirituality and religion. Not that there is a fixed definition of religion, but very often religion has two issues. Somehow people believe that that is the one path which is right, and the others are not necessarily right or as good. And India has always believed that there is not one path to the divine or to God. There are as many paths as there are individuals. Each one has to find his or her own path. And not only find his or her own path, realize the truth of the other paths and help everyone else to find their own path and not expect them to follow your path. The second thing is, often religion gets caught up in ritualism, in religiosity, and the true spirit is lost, while spirituality is focused directly on the consciousness, on the attitudes, on the values. That has to be the foundation.
How does Shri Aurobindo's yoga helps find or connect with spirituality?
This search, deeper search, has been there all over the world, in humanity, in every individual. But because this path is not easy, very often it has been identified with the renunciation of material life. While in Shri Aurobindo's yoga, it is extremely important that the spirituality is not a renunciation of material life, but leads to a greater transformation and perfection of material life. If one follows this path, and not only it can be followed by anyone and everyone, wherever one is, in whatever circumstances one is, but then it gives the true meaning to life. If one is a doctor, one becomes a better doctor, a better businessman, a better teacher, even a better sports person, a better father, a better mother, a better brother, sister. It touches and permeates every aspect of life. So this is extremely important in Shri Aurobindo's yoga, that while spirituality has to be a central purpose, the search for the divinity within each one of us has to be a central purpose. It is not narrow, it is wide, it accepts a universal approach where each one finds their direction, and it leads to a transformation of the material life, and not only at the individual level, but also at the collective level. One's own happiness is not complete if one does not only share but bring the happiness to everyone. Otherwise, the whole movement remains incomplete. And the same thing applies to peace or to knowledge. It is something which has to be brought and shared, not only shared, which has to be a collective aspiration and movement, where everyone who is looking for this change has to be welcome and part of that change. There is no distinction of faith, religion, nationality, caste, creed, none of those. Everyone is meant to be part of it, whoever is willing. So there is a lot of freedom given to each individual to find their path. But then the true change comes that not only does it become a different approach, but if there is education which is with a spiritual foundation, will it be the same with the subjects, with the examinations, with the ranks, or the education itself will become something different? Will health be the same with the doctors and the medicines and all that is happening, or will there be a different approach to health? If one is working in the villages, will it be just sanitation and livelihoods and women empowerment, or the entire approach itself will become different? And the same thing applies to every aspect, whether it be leadership and management or arts and culture. All of them will undergo a change.
Tell us more about Shri Aurobindo Society as we see it today.
Shri Aurobindo Society is an international organization which was created in 1960 by the mother of Shri Aurobindo Ashram, and the mother is the founder president of Shri Aurobindo Society. And the main purpose of the society is how this vision of a spiritual change and transformation can be taken to everyone all over the world, whoever is aspiring for this change. How all of us can work together to bring about this change, how we can all collaborate for this change, and how this change can be brought into every aspect of our individual and collective life. So at the individual level, it is this which helps us to come out of so much of the fears that each one of us has, which we keep hidden deep behind. But all of us have fears. All of us have doubts. All of us have challenges which we are facing. And how does one find the true answers to the questions? How does one find the true solutions? How does one find a meaning and a purpose in life? Somewhere this is a search which is there in each one of us. Some persons have it very strongly. Some, it comes time to time at special moments or difficult moments in life, but that each one of us has. But how does one find these answers? And that is where Shri Aurobindo's yoga, his vision, helps each one of us to find our own solutions, to find the divinity within each one of us. And how do we manifest it in our outer life? So this is one of the central purposes of Shri Aurobindo Society. How can it help individuals to find these answers, to find this meaning, to change themselves, to find the real thing that they are looking for, but also how they can contribute to making the world different, how they can contribute to making a difference, how we can all work together towards that goal collectively. Each one of us contributing in the way which we can do, because each one's contribution will be different. It is like a orchestra where each instrument and each person has a different role to play. But unless each one plays that role perfectly, the symphony will not be perfect. So also the symphony of the world, the symphony of creation will not be perfect unless each one of us finds our right place.
What are the areas in which Shri Aurobindo Society working extensively?
Shri Aurobindo Society is working in a wide range of areas, fields, domains. It is working in education. How can education not remain something with examinations and ranks and subjects? How it can be much more interesting, exciting, meaningful, character building? Does our education today help us to find the deeper meaning of and purpose of one's life? Does it help us to overcome our fears? Does it help us to meet our inner and outer challenges? Does it tell us what is the meaning of a relationship? All these things which we are confronted with in life, how much of it our education is helping to find a direction and a solution? How do we make it character building, man building, as Swami Vivekananda used to say?
So here is one question based on what you just now said, that Shri Aurobindo Society is working towards correcting this particular flaw that we have even in our education system. So is it like something complementary that helps the present education system that the whole of India follows, that Shri Aurobindo Society or his vision can help in, or you're talking about a completely different style of education system introduced by Shri Aurobindo Society?
I think it is a little bit of both and something more.
Okay.
It is definitely a different perspective, viewpoint about education, the purpose of education, about what is a child, about the role of a teacher. This is something, I would say, quite different from what is today accepted as part of education and what is happening today, and especially in India, the situation is really sad and bad.
True.
On the other hand, it is not possible to bring about a change overnight. One has to start from where one is. So what we are trying to do is, within the existing structure and system, how can we gradually, on one hand, bring about a change at two levels. One is the change in the attitudes, and that change has to come in the teachers. As important, it has to come in the parents. It has to come in the society. Only then can it come to the children and the students.
Okay.
Simultaneously, what is being taught today, how it can be made more interesting, meaningful, relevant. So we are trying to develop new resource materials. We are trying to conduct training programs for teachers, for parents and all. The third one, there are several things which are missing, which are not there part of present education. So how those elements can be introduced in a natural way, supplementing, complementing the existing. And the fourth one, can we work also at a level of the country, the government, advocacy, change in perspective at that level? Because if some change comes there, then it could naturally reach out to a much larger number. So one could do it from a small one point and like a ripple which becomes bigger and bigger. One could also try to see, can it be brought in at a different level where the impact can be much more. So there is not one particular way. The effort is multidimensional.
Okay. So you said Shri Aurobindo Society was, I'm just taking a little bit backwards. You said Shri Aurobindo Society was formed by Mother of Shri Aurobindo's ashram. Tell us more about Mother. How did she get connected with Shri Aurobindo's vision, and how did she take his work or vision forward?
The mother was born in Paris, and from her childhood, from her early ages, she has spoken about the deep search for God and divine in her life, which was part of her from the very young age. She has spoken about her spiritual search, and she was a very accomplished musician, artist. Many of her paintings were exhibited in the salons in France at that period with the great artists of that period. She also studied occultism.
Okay.
And as part of that inner search, she met in her inner visions and experiences many personalities who helped her. And among those personalities, there was one personality who helped her, guided her. And when she met Shri Aurobindo in Puducherry, she realized it was the same person who had been already helping her and guiding her. So there was no introduction which was needed. And she realized that this was the work which she had to do in her life. And that is why she took the decision to come to Puducherry and dedicate herself fully, completely for the realization of Shri Aurobindo's vision. And when Puducherry, which was a French colony, merged with India, she had given a message where she said that she was French by birth and she was Indian by choice and predilection. And in her consciousness, there was no contradiction between these two. And she felt that the day would come when everyone would not necessarily have to remain confined to one nationality, and a person could feel part of many nations, many nationalities, and part of the whole world.
And we can see that now.
It is happening more and more, and it was as part of the realization of this vision that she created the Shri Aurobindo Society, so that persons who were anywhere in the world, in India, could connect, could work together in their own way for the realization of this collective aspiration and dream of humanity.
So I've heard some great stories that people have come here from all walks of life and from various places, and they have just been drawn here, and they just come here as a wish of mother, and they have come here and given their entire life to the vision and the work of Shri Aurobindo Society. Tell us some interesting stories. One of it is your own, which you're avoiding, you're not sharing with us. But if you have any such stories you would like to share with us, that'll be great.
Well, I'm not really avoiding, but then these things are so personal that it is not always easy to share to a general audience. One can do with a small little circle of close friends, but still, I will tell you just one or two or thing. Actually, our family was in Bombay. I was born in Bombay. And my parents shifted with me and my younger sister when we were very young, so that we could have in the ashram a different type of an education.
Okay.
And they felt that the education which was there being given all over India was not the education they were looking for and which they wanted for their children.
True.
They felt the experiment in education here in the ashram, that was something which they felt would be the best for us. And very clearly, the purpose was purely for our education. And what we would do with our lives was to be entirely our decision and choice, where we would go, what we would do. It was simply to imbibe some values, to get the foundation to build oneself. But it so happened that when I completed my studies, I decided to dedicate myself fully, entirely to this ideal, this vision, and the realization of this vision. And when my sister completed independently, she too took the same decision.
Okay.
So, except the first few years in Bombay, the very few years, I have been all my life here, and I feel extremely grateful to my parents that I had this opportunity of having this beautiful, unique education here. And I feel grateful to Shri Aurobindo and the mother that I was accepted to be part of the organization and the Shri Aurobindo ashram. And the mother herself gave me the work, the duties, the responsibilities, because work, seva, karma yoga, service to the divine with the right attitude and approach as an offering to the divine is a very important part of Shri Aurobindo's integral yoga.
Okay.
So all the work that I am doing as part of Shri Aurobindo Society and as part of Shri Aurobindo Ashram is really not for anyone else but for myself, because this is my way of progressing in my sadhana. This is my way of offering myself and my life and work to the divine, and trying to find that deeper meaning, purpose, and contributing by doing something which could make a difference and which would give me that sense of fulfillment.
One such story you shared with me the other day of USA's ex-president's daughter coming all the way and settling down here. Please share the same story with my listeners. That'll be great.
Okay, surely. I received one day an email from a research scholar in the United States, and he said that I have come across the website of Shri Aurobindo Society, and I am writing to you because I would like to have some specific information. And he said that he was doing research on the children of the presidents of the United States and what impact it had on their lives because their father had been the president of the United States. So how was their life affected by that? And what happened to them? And as part of that research, he found that the daughter of President Wilson, Margaret Wilson, who was a very high-profile personality at that time, highly visible in the social circle, had moved away completely from that circle to this remote, practically unknown place in South India called Puducherry, and dedicated her entire life as part of a spiritual community. So he wanted more information about Margaret Wilson, and I sent him all the information I had, how she had come in the 1940s when Shri Aurobindo was still in his physical body, the type of correspondence she had with Shri Aurobindo, where she wrote to him about her inner search and what she was looking for in life, and whether she could come here. And finally Shri Aurobindo gave the permission, and when she came here, Shri Aurobindo and the mother gave her the name Nishtha. That was the name that they gave her, and she stayed for till she passed away in Puducherry. In fact, at the end, she was quite seriously ill, and Puducherry did not have all the medical facilities of a big city. Even in India, leave aside the United States, and she was the president's daughter. So many persons advised her that she should go back to the United States. And her answer was, they will take care of my body, but who will take care of my soul? I have come here for a purpose, and she passed away here, contributing fully to the ashram life, community, following the path of the yoga. And perhaps I'll share with you a very different example from what you asked of persons, how God, destiny brings them here. There was a person from Hungary, and his name was Reg. And he was imprisoned in Hungary when Russia entered Hungary. For many years he was in the prison. Then when he was released, he went to Australia, and there he became a very good chef in the Hilton chain of hotels. He served in the Hilton chain for a long time as a chef, but there was a deeper spiritual search, and he felt that perhaps he would find the answer to that search in India. So he came to India, landed in Chennai, and planned to go to the Himalayas because he knew there were many ashrams in the Himalayas, and he had thought that he would go to the ashrams. And there in one of the ashrams he would find what he was looking for. But somehow the train ticket to go to Delhi was only after 3 days. So he was wondering what he should do during those 3 days. And someone in Chennai, when he mentioned and asked what he could do, they said that you are looking for an ashram. And there is an ashram a little further south from Chennai called the Shri Aurobindo ashram. And you can go in the morning and come back in the evening. It is so close. And so he decided to come to the ashram, and that was the end of his search. He had never even knew the name of Puducherry. He never knew the name of the ashram, but destiny brought him here because the search was genuine. And for more than 40 years, he stayed in the ashram. I had the good fortune of working very closely with him because he looked after one of our guest houses. And not only he was an excellent chef, he was an excellent storyteller. So I used to go as much for the tasty food he cooked as for the beautiful stories and the beautiful way he told those stories. And to share a little anecdote from the many I have with him, one day when I went to see him, he took me in his kitchen and showed me a small tile right in front of where he did the cooking. And he asked me to read what was there, and I saw there in mother's handwriting, if there is disharmony in the kitchen, the food becomes indigestible. So I asked him what was the reason and the occasion, and he said that often he used to get frustrated and often also a little bit irritated, sometimes even angry with the persons who were working or helping in the kitchen with the staff, because even after being told 10 times they would do the same thing, repeat the same mistake. And once he shared his frustration and anger with the mother, and this is the answer which he received. And he said it completely changed his outlook to cooking and all, and that's why he put it right in front of where he cooked, so that if by chance something was happening which was not okay, he would remember and remain calm and not lose his cool. Well, this is just by the way, and these are one among the hundreds of stories how each person has come drawn by his own search, in each one in his own or her own way. There are hundreds and hundreds of these stories.
Wow. Well, someday we would like to hear more stories. So as you were speaking and about the vision of Shri Aurobindo, and just before we started this interview, shared a wonderful story about how he had written about China as well before the Indo-China war. So he was definitely a visionary who could see ahead of time, and of course then Mother also came and complemented his vision as well. So how do you see the relevance of that philosophy and that vision in today's very difficult times in global scenario internationally? As we see, there are so many challenges right now, whether it's connected to religion or philosophy or the way the worldview is changing about even the society and the family values, the so how do you see Shri Aurobindo's philosophy is relevant today's time, and how can it help make the world a better place?
I think it is an extremely important question because world, humanity, every country every society is passing through a very, very difficult time in every way.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of violence, the reach of terrorism, the fear which is gripping people, the way they are reacting, responding, sometimes completely irrationally. Because nobody seems to know what is the solution. And I think in this situation, Shri Aurobindo's vision, Shri Aurobindo's yoga has a something very special to contribute. What he says is that this crisis and the critical times we see around us, the basic reason is that it is an evolutionary crisis that humanity is facing. The time has come whether are we ready to individually and collectively take the next step forward, to go beyond our purely mental organization and structure which is our present culture and civilization, to something higher, truer, deeper, closer to the divinity within and everywhere. Because he believes that the solution to man's problems in every field cannot be brought by the mind. Mind, the rational being, reason, has done a great work, it had a great role to play, but it cannot give the final answers, the final solutions. And this is why, because all this search is going on only at that level, we are not able to come to the true solutions. And the true solution lies deeper in the divine element in man, in participating consciously in the evolutionary process and rising to the next higher step in the consciousness, which is the true meaning of evolution. It is not an evolution of species, it is really an evolution of consciousness from matter to life to mind, and now it is going to go forward. And the two movements are connected, finding the divinity, manifesting the divinity, and the higher step of consciousness and the higher planes. It is in that the true answer to man's problems lies. And he has not only given this as a vision, in his integral yoga he has shown the path, how individually each one of us can participate. He says this is going to happen anyhow, but it can happen with lot of suffering, lot of pain over a long period of time. But if we in humanity who are conscious beings can consciously participate in this effort, the whole thing can be done much faster and without this suffering and pain. And this has to be done not as a running away from material life, but within the world, as part. And part of this is also his dream is of human unity, of people coming together from all over to collectively solve the problems of man at every level. So this is an individual, a collective thing which changes the structure of our society. And at every level, the social, the political, the cultural, each of these have to undergo a change under this higher influence. What is beautiful is that this vision and this thing is not confined to one particular individual or a community or a group. There is no chosen one here. Everyone can be part of it. Everyone is welcome to be part of it. And this is also, in a certain sense, the work of Shri Aurobindo Society. How to take this vision to everyone in a natural way. Not as something where you want to have more followers, but because we are completely against that effort. But as an invitation, as an opening of a door, that everyone is welcome to participate and collaborate in this effort, which has both which is a change which starts from oneself, starts from within, and then moves on towards the collectivity and to the external change. And there is, because the Shri Aurobindo Society is working in education, it is working in village transformation, in health, in leadership and management, in Indian culture, in media, films, television, all of these. But they all have to be touched by this new approach, by this new light, which brings something very beautiful in each one of them. And each one of us can participate in that. And that is where, through the Karishma radio, I would like to extend this invitation to anyone, anywhere, who happens to be listening to this program and who feels touched by it, who feels, yes, this is something where I would like to know a little more, where perhaps I would like to participate in this effort. I would be happy to hear from the person. I would be happy to explore ways how we can all work together collectively towards this change.
So I was asking you to give a message to the new generation or the aspiring youth of the world, but in a way you have just given that message, but would you like to add more for the youth or the new generation?
I would like to say 2-3 things here, though it is not really necessary. But as we know, it is the youth which is the future. It is the youth which creates the future. So while this message is there for each one of us, it has a special relevance for the youth. The second reason why it has a special relevance is this is not an easy thing. It is easy to talk about it, but it is not easy to put it into practice, to really bring about this change. And it is the youth which does not accept anything as impossible. It is the youth which has dared to do what everybody thought could never be done or is impossible. So it is a special message for them because it is calls for something to make the impossible possible. And also it is for them because they are the ones who have the high dreams, who have the high visions. As it is sometimes said, that the dreamer of the age 20 becomes the cynic when he becomes 40, when he faces the things of life.
True.
Now that is a sad commentary on our life and society. The dreamer of 20 should become the realizer of 40. And here is an opportunity for them to find a way of realizing their highest dreams that they can dream of, they can imagine. So this is one thing. In this, the whole world is one. In this vision, every individual has to contribute something special. So also every country is special. every country has something unique and special to offer to the world's evolution and change, which no other country can offer. So it is part of a country's search to find what it has to offer specially to the world. And in that, India's role definitely is to offer and give the spiritual dimension, the spiritual vision, the spiritual mission in its true sense. As spirituality has been often very much misunderstood, misinterpreted, but the true meaning of spirituality, that is the message which India has to give. And that is a special message for those who believe in India, for the youth of India, to understand what India, what her culture is about, what has she done in the past, in the true way, but how that is a foundation for doing something even more beautiful in the future. Otherwise, it has no meaning. And that is why, to not only discover the true meaning of India in every field, whether it be spirituality, philosophy, religion, arts, music, dance, architecture, engineering, technology, science, mathematics, astronomy, in every field India has contributed uniquely to the world. How many of the youth of India are aware of what India has done? How many are drawing that inspiration to take that movement forward, to live that heritage and take it to the next level, so that as India contributed in the past, reached out to countries all over the world. I mean, Columbus was not looking for America, he was looking for India. And he stumbled onto America. It was India which was considered that country which everyone was looking for. The Chinese scholar and traveler came from there to India to look for knowledge. Vasco da Gama came to India from all over. India contributed so beautifully to the whole growth of the world culture, and it has as much a role to play in the future, and that is a special role for the youth of India. And that is why when I give this invitation to the youth of the world, there is a special call for the youth of India to rise to the occasion, to be worthy of their destiny, of their calling, and in that to join us in this effort of finding out the true meaning of what India is, what India has to give in every field, not just in spirituality, even in IT, in technology, in computers, but with that same deeper outlook, with that same approach, and how we can contribute in that and in every aspect of life. So this invitation is there for all of them. And I do hope that through the Karishma radio, we will be able to reach out to all those seekers from time to time in different ways, in different things. And so it would be nice to have their suggestions also, what they would like to have through you, what they would like to listen through you. It would be nice to have that.
Thank you so much. A pleasure and a privilege talking to you, honor, and you gave us your precious time. I cannot put in words how much I appreciate this. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure, Karishma, to meet you and to see your aspiration to work for a new India, for a new United States, to see how we could bring not only the United States and India closer together in a true partnership to give something to the world, but also how could this be a way of reaching out to people who are looking for something truer, deeper, all over the world. And because this is the purpose of Karishma Radio, I think it is important that these type of messages reach out more and more to the persons who are seeking. So it is for me to thank you for having given this opportunity.
It was wonderful talking to you, sir. Thank you so much, Vijay Bhai, once again. Thank you.
Thank you.